It's December 1st, 2023. Yesterday, I officially got married. In a few hours, we'll travel to the Lake District to celebrate with friends and family. But before I step into this new chapter, I must close another. One I started exactly a year ago, downloading the Silmarillion and committing to devouring the entire Tolkien Legendarium. The journey ends today, watching The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. And I'm left feeling all kinds of mixed feelings. Not quite sure what I'll do next. For an entire year, I spent hundreds of hours reading, listening, and watching all things Lord of the Rings. In the beginning, I figured it would teach me a lot about good storytelling and ensuring I developed a good understanding of Tolkien's world. It didn't. I mean, it did, but it gave me so much more. In the last video, I shared 2 essential life lessons I learned on this journey. You can watch that via the link in the description. Here in this one, I have 3 more life lessons for you, including one that's become the grandest I've ever learned. Life lesson 3. Stick to your story. One of the things I haven't read as part of Tolkien's Legendarium is the published letters he sent to readers, friends, peers, and editors over many years. I've consumed some of them though, and one that stuck out was a conversation with his publisher. Several conversations, in fact. In short, his publisher wanted something different from what Tolkien did. After the success of The Hobbit, everyone was keen for more. Readers, agents, publishers, the world. Tolkien, though, he had begun to think a lot about a lot. An entire mythology hazily formed in his imagination, one that had been slowly evolving over many years as he read bedtime stories to his kids, and I imagine sat around all day being all writerly and mysterious. The Hobbit had simply scratched the surface. He wanted to craft an entire history of Middle-earth and add depths to Bilbo's journey that nobody else could fathom. I guess the world didn't want this, let alone need it. All it desired was a story, a sequel to a book everyone loved. Understandable. But to Tolkien, a writer and creator and someone with ideas that had to come out, well, it isn't as easy as to write the book everyone else wants. You need to write the book. You need to write. Now, there were compromises, for sure, and The Lord of the Rings wasn't the book he wanted to write at the time, per se. His publisher wanted a shorter story, a more digestible one, a cheaper one to print and distribute. Yet Tolkien wouldn't budge. He couldn't budge. So the back and forth lasted years, a slowly developed process that must have been difficult for all involved. It would have been easy for Tolkien to give in and submit to what his publisher wanted. After all, he needed them more than they needed him. It's not like the world was short on writers with stories to tell. And at this point, Tolkien wasn't Tolkien. Yet he did not budge, could not budge. Compromise, sure. And place his ego to one side, yes. But kneel down and submit and, well, that he did not do. Important, too, because when you have a story to tell, you need to tell it. You need to stick to it. Not just a story, but your values, principles, and character. It's during these periods we show the world who we are, including ourselves. Yet it's never easy, which leads us to the next big lesson, and the one that's had a bigger impact on me than any other I've experienced. But before we get to that, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, your fingers. They did, after all, bring you here. They clicked on this video out of all the others it could have, or swiped maybe in a swooping and seductive manner, you little tease. Fingers are underappreciated these days and very much overused. So here's to you, your finger, for making all of this work. Take a break. You deserve it. Although before you do, one last click would be great. Of the like button, if you will, and maybe the subscribe one too if you're feeling adventurous. Life lesson 4. You will feel like an imposter. One of the great aspects of books like Beren and Luthien and The Children of Húrin is how the stories were accompanied by anecdotes, letters, and commentary from Christopher Tolkien. Not only did it provide greater context to the story itself, but it offered a glimpse into his father's mind as well as the experiences he went through. It's easy to forget that back then, as he lived his life, he wasn't the Tolkien we know today. No movies, not even a fraction of the books that are now available. He was well respected and a talented writer and professor, but no different from any other talented, well-respected professor and writer. It reminded me that we place people on a pedestal. Not just writers of yesteryear, but so many people we come across each day. Now, I won't get into the toxic nature of comparison culture, as I've already done that in another video. You can watch that up here somewhere. What I will say is that you will compare yourself to others, and you will feel like an imposter, even if you know you have a talent. Tolkien did. He experienced a level of fame and success in his lifetime. And I have no doubt he knew he was a good writer and someone who knew more about writing than almost anyone else he met. Yet what's also clear in several of his letters, stories, and anecdotes is that he doubted himself, doubted that his story was a good enough one to tell, if good at all. Like me and like you, Tolkien was just a fragile, imperfect, and insecure meat human. In my eyes, one of the greatest storytellers and world builders to have ever lived. But to him, he was just the guy he lived in the head of 24/7. And realizing this as I ran along the canal, well, it humbled me and reminded me that the reality we build in our heads is only ever, at best, a version of what is. At worst, it's just plain straight lies we tell ourselves. Because amongst the doubt and uncertainty and chattering inner voices that force us to question our worth, it's important to remember that there's value in what we do. That is always true. And it's okay that we don't always see it or believe it. Because if someone like Tolkien felt what I feel, well, maybe such feelings are okay. If he doubted himself and compared himself to others, felt like an imposter and all the rest, well, we sure as hell are allowed to feel that way too. It doesn't have to hold you back or stop you from taking the next step. It is just part of the journey, which brings us to the 5th and final lesson. Pursue daunting depths. As Frodo stands before the council, he says that infamous line, "I will take the ring to Mordor though I do not know the way. The words seem to crawl from him like a child admitting a hard truth. The journey he faces, the knowns and unknowns alike, utterly daunting. Sam's too, and everyone else part of the fellowship. The possibilities of what may and may not have happened, infinite. The hope of a positive outcome, slim. Despite this, they had a job to do, and so they did it, daunting, fear and all. I imagine this lay parallel to Tolkien's own journey, not just his adventure into writing The Lord of the Rings, which, let's face it, is a huge undertaking on its own, but as he sat with an entire Middle-earth and its long history in his mind, the burden of somehow bringing it together, his alone to bear. He failed in that regard, never did finish it, never even came close. His son had to tie some of the loose ends, but even so, it's a world that remains frayed at its edges, more questions than there are answers. But all that's fine because the only real failure he faced was to succumb to the no doubt unimaginable fear that consumed him. It would have been so much easier to just write the book his publishers wanted him to do, so much easier to just write a few books and leave it at that. Yet he didn't, and I imagine he couldn't. That's what makes him so inspiring, because he dove deep into the weeds, venturing to depths few of us can imagine, writing history and backstory and thinking about all the details 99% of people will never notice, let alone care about. But he cared. That's what matters. He did his job, daunting, fear and all. That's all any of us can do. We each have a job and are here to live a life. Often it's full of fear and unknowns and worries about what might be. We get to choose to venture deep into those daunting depths or remain on the surface where it feels more safe. Doing my own deep dive into Tolkien's creation reminded me how magical the hidden depths can be. You never know what's down there, but it is almost always better than what's up here on the surface. Thank you for watching today and the previous video in the series also. These are just a few of the lessons I took from my long venture into the Legendarium Mr. Tolkien created. I am sure you have lessons of your own, so please share them in the comments. I would love to read your thoughts and I'm sure others will too. Thanks again for being here, and as always, thank you for being you.